Allen Company and Big Al will be at the I-80 Truckers Jamboree. See you there.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Thanks for joining us on this Friday. Mark's out for a couple more days, so you're stuck with me for now. In just a moment, we'll get a check on today's top trucking headlines, including California's response to President Trump's move on emission standard rules. After that, we'll have some fun talking about customizations. Owner-operators are a cost-conscious lot, but at the same time, they take great pride in what they do, including what they do with their truck. And that leads to an obvious question: how do you do that on a budget? If anyone has the answers, it's Bryan Martin of the Chrome Shop Mafia, and he's going to tell us all about that. After that, most everyone has heard about the so-called trucker tan, that thing that happens because you have one arm by a window and one that's not. Now a device to protect your left arm from the sun is finally on the market. We're going to hear all about that. And then we'll close out the show today with some cybersecurity tips regarding passwords that will keep a lot of the hackers at bay, courtesy of Jason Lutz and Tim Storhoff of OOIDA's IT department. All of that coming up on today's show. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. Less than 24 hours after President Trump signed off on several resolutions that would kill 3 California rules that set strict vehicle emission standards, the governor is doubling down on further advancing California's clean vehicle transition. On Thursday, Trump squashed Advanced Clean Cars 2, which would have banned the sale of new internal combustion engine passenger vehicles by model year 2035, as well as Advanced Clean Trucks, which would have required 40% of Class 8 truck sales to be zero direct emission vehicles by model year 2032, and 75% of Class 4 through 8 non-tractor trucks by model year 2035. Today, Governor Gavin Newsom signed an executive order that doubles down on California's commitment to clean cars and trucks. A press release says that the state will begin working on the next phase of clean vehicle programs and crafting regulations. Some in the trucking industry have been sounding the alarm on California's vehicle emission rules, claiming they are unachievable for Class 7 through 8 trucks. After yesterday's announcement by Trump, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association called the move a big win for truck drivers. President Todd Spencer said that electric trucks are too expensive and the charging infrastructure isn't there. A sheriff's office in Texas is sharing results from this year's International Road Check. The Denton County Sheriff's Office, in collaboration with several other agencies, found 117 out-of-service violations and 71 trucks were taken out of service. This year's road check took place from May 13th through the 15th. During the 3-day safety blitz, 64 citations were issued, 670 warnings were given, and 165 Level 1 inspections were completed. No Level 2 or Level 3 inspections were conducted. Results overall haven't been released yet. CVSA says it will report the results later this year. Meanwhile, 122 truckers were placed out of service after a pair of recent commercial vehicle enforcement blitzes in Oregon. According to the Oregon Department of Transportation, the 2 safety enforcement events took place in late April and early May along Interstate 84. The department said during the events, more than 490 truckers who bypassed an open way station were stopped by Oregon State Police and escorted back. After returning to the station, the drivers were inspected for compliance with licensing and hours of service regulations. From those, nearly 500 drivers stopped. 25% were placed out of service, with inspectors uncovering false logs and multiple electronic logging devices that had been tampered with and were producing fictional logs. The next nationwide safety blitz is coming up at the end of August, when CVSA will hold its annual Brake Safety Week. That will go from August 24th through the 30th. A Houston trucker has been convicted of smuggling 2 people from Guatemala into the country. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, on May 5th of last year, Armando Balladares Prado came to a border checkpoint for primary immigration inspection. During his court hearing, the jury was told he looked nervous, but provided consent for an X-ray examination of his tractor trailer. That's when authorities found 2 individuals hidden underneath the bed of the sleeper compartment. The defense tried to convince the jury that the 2 individuals got into the tractor trailer and pulled the bed down on top of themselves, but evidence showed that would be virtually impossible. The jury found the 66-year-old trucker guilty. He now faces up to 5 years in federal prison and a possible $250,000 fine. Personal information from nearly 300,000 crash reports could have been compromised, according to the Texas Department of Transportation. This week, the department said it identified unusual activity within its crash reporting information system. An investigation revealed an individual account was compromised and used to improperly access and download crash reports. Those potentially affected by the data breach have been sent a letter about what steps should be taken to protect their information. $6.7 million worth of methamphetamine was found in a shipment of tomatillos recently. U.S. Customs and Border Protection at the Far International Bridge encountered a tractor-trailer coming into the country from Mexico. During an inspection, officers extracted 166 packages of alleged methamphetamine, weighing 753 pounds, concealed within the shipment. The narcotics and vehicle were seized, and a criminal investigation was initiated. A statewide move-over traffic enforcement project is happening in Iowa next week. From June 17th through the 19th, the Governor's Traffic Safety Bureau is partnering with the Central Iowa Traffic Safety Task Force and law enforcement across the state to educate drivers about the importance of moving over if someone is on the shoulder of the road. Since 2002, the move-over law has been in effect. Violating this law could cost you $210.25 and could include suspension of driver's license privileges ranging from 90 days to a year. A warning to truck drivers in Tennessee. Reports of a scam targeting truckers was reported to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. In a recent Facebook post, there were reports of truck drivers being scammed on Wednesday, June 11th, outside a Love's Travel stop-off, Interstate 40. Authorities said these victims would be approached by one of the suspects and then escorted to a group of other co-conspirators. The victims would be asked to play a betting game, and the victim would be conned out of their money and jewelry. The Facebook post included photos of the suspects, and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office asked for anyone with information on the case to contact them. And finally, a New York man has claimed the Guinness World Record by playing golf for 36 consecutive hours. UPI reports that the man hit the links at 6 p.m. on Sunday and stayed on the course until Tuesday. Evidence from his attempt now must be reviewed by Guinness World Records to make it official. The man, who is originally from Nigeria, said his goal in this attempt was to expand the reach of golf, especially to young people in Nigeria, where he is planning to build a course. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. We do our best to cover all the big stories in depth here on Landline Now, but sometimes you might want to go back and get more context. The big stories you hear on the show are also covered on landline.media. If it happened in trucking, you'll find it there, from reporting and opinion pieces to pretty much anything in between. Check it out at landline.media. And we all know that cargo theft is reaching epidemic proportions in parts of the country, with those states that contain ports taking the brunt of the problem. The Combating Organized Retail Crime Act is designed to help law enforcement combat the problem. It would strengthen legal tools for local law enforcement, expand money laundering statutes, target prosecution of organized retail and supply chain theft groups, and create an office in the Department of Homeland Security to coordinate efforts. The bill is H.R. 2853 in the House and S. 1404 in the Senate. Call your members of Congress today at 202-224-3121 or write a letter using the website fightingfortruckers.com. When we come back, we'll have Bryan Martin of Chrome Shop Mafia on the line, and he's going to have some advice for us on sprucing up your truck in ways that won't break the bank. Always a good talk with Bryan, so look forward to that next right here on Landline Now, so please do stick around.
Penske is the trusted source for quality used trucks. Whether you search our website, call our sales staff, or bid at our online auction, you are sure to find the right used truck for your business. Visit PenskeUsedTrucks.com to view our inventory and learn more.
High heat and low lubricity can break your diesel fuel down fast. Summer driving means crowded roads, more stress, dust, and a bigger risk of costly engine damage. Howe's Diesel Defender protects from the inside out, cleaning, lubricating, and fighting injector wear. Visit HowsProducts.com.
With rising costs affecting everyone, switching to a genuine Vibertech TVD viscous damper can help you avoid expensive repairs and downtime. Save money and keep your truck running smooth with Vibertech TVD. Recommended replacement at 500,000 miles or 15,000 hours.
Landline Now. Thanks for joining us today. I'm your host, Mark Reddick. It's time for another installment of Mafia Secrets, Advice from the Boss Man, with Bryan Martin of 4 State Trucks, home of the Chrome Shop Mafia. And once again, I'm on the line with Bryan Martin, who is the boss man at Joplin, Missouri's Chrome Shop Mafia at 4 State Trucks. And Bryan, how are you doing today?
Mark, we're doing pretty good. How's things up in the city?
Everything is fine up in the city, which is unusual, but we're going to take it.
Just give it a minute. It'll hand grenade. Just give it a minute.
There you go. Yeah, I probably cursed it by saying everything was fine. So, yeah, got to balance that out there.
Sure.
Our topic today is one I think that will ring true with a lot of owner-operators, especially those who have these older rigs. But, a lot of folks, they have those older rigs because they're on a limited budget. So, Bryan, we wanted to ask you about 5 things that you can do to spruce up that old rig if you are on that limited budget. And I guess let's just start at the top of the list. What's your number one thing that people can do?
Well, you and I got together a few weeks ago and kind of kicked around this topic, and I got to thinking, just about all of us in trucking the last 18, 20, 24 months, it don't matter pretty much who you are, you're on a limited budget as compared to what we'll just refer to as the good old days. Everything we reach for, whether it's an oil change or tires or service, everything you reach for on that truck costs a lot more now than it did just 2 years ago. So first of all, I got to thinking, man, a limited budget is like all of us. And then secondly, limited budget, define that. To one guy, it might be, man, I don't want to spend more than $800 or $1,000 a month on my truck. And the next guy, it may be, I don't want to spend more than $200 or $300 a month, fixing up my truck every month. So kind of a gray area here, but I just kind of hit some of the high points and maybe not a lot of deep thinking into how I got into some of these. But here again, I think we were talking about summer weather the other day, and let's do the same philosophy. Let's start on yourself. Let's start on the driver first, and we'll wait for the machine second. But where do we spend 12 or 15 hours of every single day, regardless of whether we're in a company truck, late model owner-operator truck, or an older piece of equipment that's an owner-operator truck? You're sitting right there in that seat, and it deteriorates after it gets 600,000, 700,000, 800,000 miles on it. Those things got shocks in them, and the old foam, memory foam and everything, and the lower cushion, the backrest kind of breaks down. A lot of your lumbar adjustments kind of fizzle out as they get older. But probably to just treat yourself, first things first, let's make sure you got the very best seat that you can afford in your truck. The seats from the factory now, the last 4 years are actually pretty good. If I go back into the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, the OEs really didn't put premium seats in hardly anything. They just kind of put a moderate seat in there, and then usually after that truck got its second owner, that particular person would come to somebody like 4 State or a dealership and would really get him a premium seat. But, there are some really nice seats out there now. You can get seats with the heat in them, we'll call it cooling, but it's really a vent. You can get genuine leather. You can get simulated leather, which is pretty doggone impressive. And I would say, guys, if you got extra money and your seat's not everything you wanted it to be, I would say spend your money there first, regardless of age of truck, get the very best seat that you can budget for. And, at least for a short while, you're gonna feel like a brand new man, as you break that seat in over those first few months or first year or so.
Yeah, I'm amazed with truck seats. The first time I sat in a nice truck seat at a truck show, I just remember sinking into it and thinking, can I get this for my house?
Right.
This is nice,
Right. One thing we've done a little different down here in Joplin is we've got about 16 seats, all bolted down to the floor, all hooked up to air. So it is, like when you go to the furniture store and you try this lazy boy and that lazy boy and this recliner, you can kind of do the same here because they're all nice seats, let's say. But, everybody's got their definition of what's comfortable. Some people want that hugger where you just kind of settle into it. And then some people want the big, wide profile, kind of like a love seat, like really cushy. And so at least we've got some bolted down where you can really experience them. Put your feet flat on the floor and recline that thing, run the air up and down, and really kind of pick one out before you make the purchase. So we think it's a big deal, and we've heard pretty good reviews from our customers that they really like all the selection being hooked up to air.
Oh, man, yeah. And it's just worth the money. Whatever you spend on it, it's worth the money.
It is. It is.
Well, let's go to number 2 here, Bryan. And I'm kind of curious. You started off strong. What do we got next?
Well, I kind of went two ways. Now, for the guy that's really, he's just not really wanting to spend a lot. He's wanting to put it on himself and just kind of make a little splash, without breaking the bank. There are dozens of hubcaps and lug nut cover packages. I mean, there's black, there's chrome, there's black chrome, there's flat top, there's pointed. You've seen the spike, everybody loves the spike, kind of shredding the atmosphere as it rolls down the highway. And then, there's traditional, all kinds of nut covers and hubcaps. You can usually get a 6-piece set for $250, give or take. And, it's fun. It's not a lot of money. It's easy to put on. And it kind of, at a glance, it kind of freshens up the whole truck a little bit. You can do the same thing on your mud flaps. The back of the truck, you can do flap weights. You can do anti-sails. You can get logoed flaps, whether you want your truck make on there or you just want to back off or wide turns. I mean, there's all kinds of fun mud flaps, mud flap weights, anti-sails. There's even the top mud flap trims that you can put on there in stainless. And, if you've got a long hooded truck like a classic Freightliner, Coronado, Peterbilt, Kenworth, you can even get your flap weights for the back of the hood there, on the front hood fender. So hub covers and a full mud flap treatment. I figured that was kind of a second, really budget, user-friendly. You can do it on a Saturday. You can do it while you're getting unloaded or reloaded or waiting on a load. There's something there that just doesn't take much time at all and also won't take a ton of money.
Thinking about the hubcaps, I know a lot of people like these aerodynamic hubcaps that have come out, but I think there's a void in the marketplace here for someone who comes up with one of those that looks snazzy, because honestly, I mean, they're doing great work in terms of the aerodynamics, but they're kind of boring.
You're right. They do kind of, they are a little lackluster in their appearance. So, that's a great idea. Like, let's put some style to those things. That's an awesome topic that I've not really crossed my mind before, but challenge accepted.
All right. Well, and I won't even mention the fact that those spiky lug nut covers, I always think of Ben-Hur in the chariot race, man. It's
right. Yes, yeah. Mad Max.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's go on to number 3 here, because this is all great stuff so far, Bryan. What have you got for us on number 3?
Well, at first I thought, man, I'm only speaking to the square-hooded classic truck owners if I say this, but that's not true. Whether you've got an aerodynamic truck or a square-hooded classic, all the exterior lighting, of course, we went from incandescent to LEDs as industry standard 20 years ago. But now there are some really, really bright and really, really fun LED exterior and interior, for that matter, lighting options. There's the new glass-sealed LED lights where you can get that really cool, like watermelon pattern with the big, brilliant light pattern that you can see at night. And we've talked about it on the show here before, all the color changing, where you can have amber to blue, amber to green, amber to purple, and then the same thing, red to green, red to blue, red to purple. There is just a lot of LED fun. Here again, user-friendly. You don't have to take it to the dealership. Really simple to install. They're getting more and more economical, more or less, year over year, and a lot of options as they just keep pushing the envelope and expanding. But exterior LED is kind of where my mind was going. Now that I said that, interior LED on your dome lights, under dash glow lights, things like that. But the whole lighting scene is more affordable right now than it's ever been. And there are more options now than we've ever had in the industry for some really cool LED lights.
The color changing, I think, Bryan, is one of the things that I love the most about LEDs, because if you wanted in the past to do different colors, a lot of those aren't road legal, and you'd have to get a completely different set of lights attached some other way.
Oh, right.
You don't need any of that. You just one set of lights and click on the remote control, probably.
Yeah, one set of lights, and then you just have to run one extra wire to all your lights to flip that fourth wire to power it up, and then it changes colors. They are really the cat's meow. They're so much fun.
Well, Bryan, I'm not sure we're going to have a lot of time here. We're down to under 3 minutes, but let's at least get number 4 in here. What is your number 4?
Here again, this is going to be a little more budget, but this has been tried and true for 40 years. The way you change the attitude of your truck, and now we could say this about aerodynamic trucks as much as the classics, but change out that bumper. Get rid of maybe the plastic or the gray or the black bumper. Get you a nice chrome-plated, extra tall bumper, unless you're off-road all the time. That's really going to change the looks of the entire truck. And you know where I'm going next, Mark. You got to have that sun visor. And whether you're driving a Freightliner Cascadia, a Western Star, an International Pro Star, a Peterbilt 579, a Kenworth T680, there are some awesome stainless steel sun visors for the aerodynamic trucks, just like there are for the classic square-hooded trucks. So that visor in conjunction with the bumper, when you walk out of the truck stop and you see your truck sitting there with those two items changed out on it, it's like you got a whole new machine.
There's something to be said for first impressions here, and I think that's your first impression when that truck is coming up to someone. And it really does make a difference. I mean,
it does. It gives it a little bit of attitude, a little bit of pizzazz and style, and regardless of the model, there's sun visors and custom shiny bumpers for all of them. So that was going to be my third one. If a guy wants to spend a couple $1,000s, that's probably in the realm of where you would be on those two items if you put them on yourself.
And, of course, with bumpers, you've got all kinds of options, mechanical options and different things you can have. Those that lower down when you're at a truck show. Looks kind of cool that way.
Yeah, and you can get them, you can order one and get you, all the, the 30 lights across the bottom of it, the little quarter lights or penny lights, as people call them. Those little 3/4-inch button lights are all the rage right now. So you can even light up your front bumper. And there again, not going to cost a ton more than just the blank bumper.
All right. Bryan, it's a great list, and we sure appreciate you spending some time with us, and hopefully we help someone out that's on a limited budget to kind of spruce things up.
You bet.
But in the meanwhile, thanks for joining us, and anything you want to pass on to folks before we head out?
Nope, it's always fun chatting with you guys, so I hope you've got something out of it, and look forward to the next episode.
If you have questions, you can call 4-State Trucks at 1-888-875-7787. Again, that phone number is 1-877-875-7787. You can also learn more by going to the company's website, 4statetrucks.com. That's the number 4statetrucks.com. We'll be back in just a moment with more. I'm Mark Reddick, and this is Landline Now.
At Truck Stop, we've built a better load board for carriers like you. Sign up today and access over 600,000 loads on the most trusted online load board. Learn why the best in the business rely on Truck Stop to make more money and start driving your profit today.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone's FD694 drive tire for long haul and regional applications now delivers 126,000 more removal miles than the Yokohama TY517 MC2. Contact your Firestone commercial dealer to learn more.
Landline Now, welcome back. We've all heard of a farmer's tan, but a trucker's tan is one that's a bit more specific. I recently spoke with Scott Catuzza, who came up with a device to block out this problem.
So the trucker's tan is what you acquire while driving down the road. The left side of your body is always exposed to that nice big giant window next to you. So it doesn't usually matter what time of day, as long as it's daylight out, you're continuously being hit with that sun on the left side of your body.
Now, I'm sure, with some guys, it's probably pretty clear what they do for a living. In the dead of summer, you see one arm that's very tan and the other one that's not so much.
Absolutely. My first year driving, my left arm was so sunburned, I never thought it was ever going to go away and match my right arm again. It was so bad.
And I want to take a step back. What is your history in trucking? When did you start to notice, the trucker's tan, and when that kind of became an issue?
Almost immediately. I acquired my license for the CDLA in September of 2014. So the first few months of working, I was hauling grain from a grain elevator over by General Mills in Buffalo, New York. And it really didn't affect me because wintertime in Buffalo is obviously, you're wearing heavy coats and we got the freezing temperatures. But that following spring, I want to say within the first month of good weather and wearing T-shirts, I could tell that the left arm was significantly way darker than the right arm. And it continued to just get worse from there. I mean, week after week, day after day, you're being continuously sunburned. And it was painful to the point I was like, I got to start looking for some kind of shade. They have to make something. And I could never find anything.
Yeah, and I think that's what surprised me when I started reading your story. You mentioned you looked around, and this wasn't that long ago. I would have thought that there would have been a device or something that someone would have come up with. Were you surprised that you couldn't find anything?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, every truck stop I would go into, I would search the entire truck part section for anything. There's a bunch of sun visor extenders to add to your the sun visor to block sun from the eyes. But I couldn't find anything that would even remotely do the job to shade the left arm.
Now, had you talked to other truck drivers to see what they were doing or if they were finding this to be an issue?
Yeah, a lot of them, a lot of the older guys claim that they're so used to it, it didn't bother them anymore. And unfortunately, looking back, I never looked at it as a kind of a health device. And I wasn't looking at the long-term damage. I was just looking for the immediate fix. Like, okay, I look ridiculous when I'm trying to go out. Anything besides doing the job itself, you're going to some kind of birthday party for your niece and nephew. And, oh, here comes Uncle Scotty with his left arm looking like a tomato. And, I just couldn't find anything that was even close to the design that I had came up with in my mind.
Now, did you find, oftentimes tan lines can kind of be a funny thing, but of course, as time went on, you realized this is a health risk. Do you find in the industry it's kind of just seen as a funny thing, or are truck drivers kind of starting to realize that this is an issue?
Long term, you do realize it's an issue. So you have to get your CDL physical bi-yearly. So when I would go in for mine, right off the top, I asked, I said, is there something that exists that can kind of prevent this? And they said, no, you should just probably start wearing sleeves, because long term, you're at risk of skin cancer. And that's when I was like, wow, I really should probably think about doing everything I can to make this idea a reality.
Yeah, talk to me about the process. Obviously, sleeves would work, but I'm sure that would get hot while you're driving in some of the hotter areas especially. But you got the idea, and then what were the steps that you had to go through for the product to come to fruition?
So it was literally my first year driving, summer. Throughout the summer of 2015, I would get to the point where I would try to cross my arm. So when you're sitting in a truck, you don't have a lower armrest like you do a car. Just right to the left of you, there's a little panel that has your buttons and window. So that's the only place to keep your arm. And you can't tuck it down in between because the door, you got like maybe like this much space between the door and the seat. So I would cross my arm and drive like this, and then your arm goes numb because you're not getting blood flow to the arm, and I just really didn't know what to do at that time. You could tape paper to the window or something, but that doesn't stop the angle of the sun if it's coming down on you from kind of above. That doesn't prevent you're always being hit by that sunlight. And I guess that's when the brainstorming started, literally driving down the road, just hour after hour driving, just thinking, man, this sucks. If there was just something that could kind of come up and shade, with so curvature, so no matter where the sun is in the sky, your arm is always covered like in the shade. And really that's when it started, was just driving down the road and having hours to just kind of brainstorm the perfect device.
What was the process then, as far as coming up, like you said, you kind of had the idea of the design, but as far as making the actual product, what was the process there?
A very long, tedious process. So this wasn't something that I took into action until actually a few years later. Just financial reasons. It was very expensive to move forward with this idea. Applying for the patents alone is taking almost 15 grand. And that's not guaranteed that you'll be approved. I could have invested that money and got a rejection letter saying, no, this isn't something that the U.S. government will issue a patent for. So that it was a risk right there, a gamble. And I was very happy when I got the letter saying that you're approved. So from there, the next process was finding a manufacturer that can. At first, I was making these in the garage, handmade, one piece at a time. And it doesn't look anything compared to what the final product. The final product is beautiful. It comes off the assembly line, injection molded. The mold closes every 45 seconds. Fully made device pops out. So, but originally I was making these, I would buy big sheets of like 8x4 panels, almost like drywall, of 1/8 thick polypropylene plastic, cutting them out, which, they're kind of a little jagged when you're sawing out each individual piece. And then you got to bend the line. It was just a long process. I mean, I made 500 by hand, which probably took almost a month to complete.
Now, the name of the product, talk to me about that, and where did that come from?
Well, it's a sun blocker. It blocks the sun. And arm rocker just came with, okay, your arm's being exposed, and almost like you're in a relaxed state. You put your arm on what would be a relaxed state to say you're trying to drive in comfort. You sit in your rocker. So I said, it's your little arm rocker. I don't know, that little panel between the glass, on the door. I just called it the the rocker. That's arm rocker. Something had to rhyme with blocker. So it was really just coming up with something that sounded catchy.
What was the reaction, when you started talking to other truck drivers about this idea that you had, and, you were getting into the process of actually making it? What were the reactions?
At first, I was taking the handmade pieces and now that I had to wait, I didn't want to jump the gun and start exposing the product before I heard back from the patent office. So the minute I got the patent letter back saying I was approved, I took the handmade devices and I was just giving them away for free for testimonials. Said, hey, if you could reach back, use this, keep the arm from getting burned. So many truck drivers were like, what a good idea. I never would have thought, I never seen anything like it. Another guy says, this is like 20 years too late. And then he showed me his arm, and unfortunately, he had purple spots all over the arm. And that's when I was like, wow, that wasn't my intended idea at first, was this is a health device. It was really just stop the painful sunburn. But thinking about long term, I was like, yeah, man, this is really something that could prevent something that's almost unavoidable when you're doing the job.
Now, May, of course, is Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month. Do you do anything special during that month?
I offer a 25% discount on the website for individual pieces purchased. And for the last 2 years, this will be the third year, St. Christopher's Truckers Fund reached out, and it's just kind of like a little co-promotion thing. They do awareness and they help raise money for different truckers that are on hard times. If they have any kind of health issue, they help raise funds to take care of, people's expensive medical bills or help families out when truckers hit hard times. So they kind of promote the product to help just raise awareness about the dangers of long-term exposure to the sun.
Now, do you still drive truck?
No, I actually quit. I had a couple health problems that arose. So I thought it was best to give, trucking, wrap it up. I could have continued, but I just saw it was more of an uphill battle if I continued.
How does it feel, though? I mean, you're very much still part of the industry in providing a product that, is going to help a lot of truck drivers.
Yes. I mean, that's really the idea of why I wanted to do this to begin with. Was it's an everyday issue that you face. And then realizing, especially when I had my physical, and the lady had told me, you should probably start wearing sleeves because you're at risk of getting skin cancer with those kind of sunburns. And she said, you're getting that every day. You're definitely way, way at a higher risk than the average person that just commutes to work back and forth. So, yeah, I mean, I just want the product to do it as intended and help people out. And it's an easily preventable thing if you take the necessary steps. See, I'm the kind of person that I'm wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and kind of a hoodie and a light jacket in the wintertime. And being from Buffalo at 20 degrees, I'm walking around, kind of longer shorts, t-shirt, and a hoodie. People are looking at me like I'm just a warm-bodied person. So in the summer, the last thing I could do is wear long sleeves. I'd pass out of heat exhaustion. So.
That was Scott Katuza talking about the Arm Rocker Sun Blocker. For more information, you can visit truckerstan.com. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back here in the home stretch of our program today. Scott Thompson with you, and we're going to spend the remainder of our time with another crash course in technology to keep you and your stuff safe online. Hopefully that's the goal here. News you can use if you will. And joining us to break down what we need to know, our returning champion, Jason Lutz. Hello, Jason.
Hey, Scott. How's it going?
Good. And Tim Storhoff. Hey, Tim.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Both Jason and Tim work in OOIDA's IT department. Good to see you both. Appreciate you both being here. Lots to get to here, so we'll jump right in. I do want to take a step back, though, because we have talked a few times with you before, Jason specifically, covering online security, covering things that people need to know. A quick refresher might be helpful for people out there just to kind of go over what we've talked about before as we lead into this conversation today.
The last couple of sessions we've had, we talked about VPN usage, which of course is the virtual private network, which basically masks your presence online. So somebody can't intercept your messages or hack into your phone or whatnot. And the use of free public Wi-Fi, because you're basically out in the open and you have no idea who's sitting there just waiting for someone that has low security on their phone or their laptop. And of course, which leads us into password security. That is directly affected by all of that.
Yeah.
First off, we're going to talk about the complexity of your password, what to do, what not to do. And then we're going to talk about some two-factor authentication and how that works hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that too, because when we talk about, VPNs and firewalls and all this other stuff, quite frankly, I think it goes over a lot of people's heads, understandably so, I think, because it's kind of complicated. We're talking about passwords here, which I think is like level one online security, which, I mean, everybody's got a password out there. Everybody uses passwords, dozens of them at this point, probably, with all the different accounts that all of us have. And this is the one thing that you can do to really make sure that your stuff is safe. And you talked about the different things that you want to do to make sure that your stuff is safe with regard to passwords. And you kind of mentioned complexity there. I know randomizing passwords. You want a different password for every single account, ideally, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of people don't do that, though.
Yeah, it's a tough and rather annoying thing to have to do because if you have 50 accounts online, whether it's your credit cards, bank, or doctor's offices these days, using the same password, and if somebody gets that password, they have access to virtually everything.
They're all compromised, right?
Absolutely.
So what you want to do, Tim, right, is you want to make sure that they are all randomized. And that doesn't mean just changing one number at the end of each account password, right? Or
right.
one letter, right? You want to make sure you've got random letters and numbers and symbols in there, right?
That's right, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to use anything like password 1 or, something called like let me in as a password or anything. It's best to do like longer strings of password, like 12 to 14 characters, a combination of letters, numbers, and symbols. And that really is the best way to go. There are software programs out there that you can get a generated password.
Yeah, you can even go online to generate them as well.
Yes.
But I've got an iPhone, and it will do that. It will generate unique passwords for each account.
Yep.
And it stores them all, which maybe that's not safe too. I don't know. They're all in one place. But, it does help to have some help there with these different sites that can generate passwords for you. Two-factor authentication, I know, is a huge thing that I keep hearing about. That's another part of this too. Can you just explain for people out there that maybe haven't messed with two-factor authentication, what it is, what does it do?
So two-factor authentication works hand in hand with your password, with your login and password. Let's say someone randomly guesses your password and they get into your account. If you have it turned on to check and make sure it's you every single time, you will either get a text message or through an authentication app such as Microsoft Authenticator to verify it's you. It'll send a message to your phone that only you know, and it generally times out about 30 seconds to a minute to make sure it's not just sitting around waiting for somebody to get into your phone, let's say.
Absolutely.
So when you log into your let's say, bank account, and you have that turned on, it'll send you a message, whether it's, like I said, the authentication app or a text message with a code. You enter that in, and then it'll officially allow you in, so that whoever's out on the internet that has your password can't always get in.
If they don't have your phone or any way to check that message,
exactly,
they can't get in, right?
And another thing, and I found this out personally, a way to check and see if your password's been compromised is if they do get it, and then you suddenly get this message that somebody's coming in. Well, now you know to change your password, and of course you decline it.
Yeah.
So
don't hit accept.
Exactly. It's
whatever you do.
A very, very good thing to do.
Yeah.
And I will admit it's kind of annoying, but I would rather get annoyed than destroyed.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. And just, real quick here, password managers, that's a pretty good way to go about making sure two-factor authentication. These are two ways that you can get the randomization and get the two-factor authentication protection that we're talking about.
Yes. And to touch base on that, I will say this, make sure the company you go with has a good reputation. Because if you have a password manager out there that's free or for $20 and you have never heard of them, they may be
Chances
vulnerable.
are, yeah.
The chances are that they may have a vulnerability in their software. So Google, Apple, stick with the big guys who do this a lot.
Yeah. And as you said there, it's complicated, it's confusing, and it's a pain, quite frankly, to have dozens of different passwords. But if you have that password manager, it certainly helps. Don't put it on a Post-it note and stick it on your laptop or something either, which, again, I understand why people do it, but don't do that. We read and hear about all these hacks all the time. In the news, we hear about people's data getting compromised, stolen, what have you. I guess a basic question is, how does it happen? Hackers obviously will use any tool that they can get their hands on to get your information. But what are some of the common ways that they're doing that?
Absolutely. One of them in particular is called shoulder surfing. And that's pretty much when you're sitting in a coffee shop or somewhere to where you have a Wi-Fi access and you're paying your bill or you're logging into something that one of your websites, and somebody happens to be near you, either looking over your shoulder,
taking notes and writing down what your password and your login.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And that would be obviously in a public place. You have to. Do you bring a shield with you, or
well,
just be aware that there may be people looking and kind of hunch over a little bit or something? Or
well, there are a couple of ways that you can prevent that.
Yeah.
And one way is to be very aware of who's looking around at you. Or you could have a screen black screen protector type thing.
Yeah, so they can't see what you're doing.
Absolutely.
That's kind of the easiest way,
yes.
right? There are other more complex ways out there. I know we've only got about a minute, but what other ways are there for hackers to get you?
Well, to follow up on that, the more of an amplified version of that is called a brute force, where instead of a person trying to hack into your machine, you have a series of computers that are taking all of these random passwords or dictionary passwords and just basically trying it as many thousands or potentially millions of times very, very quickly. Until they hit it. Now, there are ways to remedy that. And one of the ways is to, if it's available, turn on password attempts. What that is let's say, for instance, you have an online account and after 3 attempts, it locks your account. If that's available, turn it on so these cannot happen.
Yep.
As long as it doesn't lock you out. We all forget our passwords sometimes.
It will lock you out, but you can generally have your phone or an email address or something associated with it as a backup. So you want to make sure those backups are in place.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then, of course, the other would be keyloggers. Now, keyloggers are generally in malicious software, or they could be in a software that you need and it actually works and functions the way it's supposed to, but it's in there more of like a Trojan horse.
Gotcha.
And it literally records your keystrokes and sends them back to a certain location.
Yeah.
And then now they have it, and you had no idea it happened. And you thought, and everything's functioning fine for you, so you have no indication.
It's a wild world out there. Tim and Jason, good advice. Hopefully we've helped people along the way here as we continue these conversations that we have. We appreciate you coming by, sharing your expertise with us.
Anytime, Scott.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
And thanks to you for listening to Landline Now. That's our show for today, but we're back soon with another, so we'll see you then.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm. I'm a veteran.
I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome. And I am a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us! Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.